Testing candles before you actually sell them is so important because not only do you want to know how long they actually burn for so that you can put that information on your product listing, but you also want to know if the fragrance oil is strong enough to fill up a whole room. You want to know if the wick and the jar you chose is appropriate to allow a proper melt pool. You want to know if the wick and the jar you chose are a perfect pairing to allow the wax to melt at an optimal rate. And lastly, you want to know whether or not that wax is actually good and if you want to continue using it in the future. I really like soy, I really like cocoa apricot, but they all can perform a little bit differently depending on the fragrance you choose and the jar and the wick. So that is another reason why testing is just so important, because as business owners, we want to provide the best candle to our customers. So in this video, we are going to do just that. I have this limited edition candle I'm releasing in February that I need to test. So I'm going to walk you through my process and talk about the criteria my candles must meet before I sell them to customers. Hello everybody. It is 7:50 p.m. at night, and we are going to power burn this guy. Based on previous candle tests, this should burn for at least 30 hours, or maybe it won't burn for that long, which will prove the importance of testing. So this is how the candle looks. You can see because I had to heat gun the top of it to smooth it out, I actually melted the embed partially, and it kind of looks like a weird blob now. So if I'm going to do this for the candles I actually release, the heart's going to be a different color from the wax. And I'm also going to fill in the sinkholes first, make sure that that is smooth, and then do another round of heating the top so that everything is smooth, because this does not look great. To cut the wick, I'm going to use these beautiful wick trimmers that Natty or Nady sent me. Please let me know how to pronounce your name. I love you, girl. I just want to say your name right. So let's cut it about yay high. And there you go. I scented this candle in strawberry shortcake, and the cold throw is amazing. I can smell it even though it's not right under my nose. It smells fantastic. We are ready to start this power burn at 8 o'clock at night. I'm gonna burn it for at least 3 hours to get a full melt pool, and then I'm gonna blow it out, we're gonna sleep, and I'm gonna continue the power burn the next day. Never leave a candle burning unattended. It's not smart. Okay, let's light this up. Welcome to my kitchen. It's important that when you do a power burn that you burn this candle in the same type of environment that your customer would be burning their candle. And I'm choosing to burn this candle in my kitchen living room area. There's Kale in the background. And this room is great because I can monitor this power burn as it's burning. We're always in this area, and the fact that it's a really big room really tests the hot throw of this candle. So it is now 8 o'clock. I'm gonna stop talking and light this candle. Oh, bless you, Jiggy. That was my cat sneezing. I wonder if the microphone picked that up. I'll come back in about 3 hours once the full melt pool has been established.
One hour in. 1 hour in.
So this is what it looks like after an hour, and you can see that it hasn't formed a full melt pool yet. That usually takes about 3 hours. And you can also see that I have the wick just slightly off center, and that's actually good because I want to see whether or not the glass can withstand the wick being a little bit closer to one side. That's all part of the power burn. What did you notice about the smell of it, Kale?
When you first lit it, it smelled like I thought you were baking chocolate chip cookies. So I smelled like baked goods at first, but then I just came in from taking the garbage out, and then I smelled really fruitiness like an hour later. Smelled the strawberries.
1 hour in, and I can totally smell the strawberries.
Yeah.
And I can smell it from the farthest walls or the farthest reaches of this room. And that is a good sign. This hot throw passes my test. Out of 10, what would you say the hot throw is for you?
I'll say 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
I hate giving perfect scores, but 10 out of 10.
And the color is gorgeous. It's a little dark. So I know that for my next batch of candles, when I make a bunch of them, I'm going to add just maybe 2 drops instead of 4. But we're gonna keep it burning, and we will come back at the 3 hour mark and see if it has achieved a full melt pool by that point. Hey guys, it has been 3 hours officially, and this is the melt pool that we've got. And if I could just get it to focus, you can see because I didn't fully center the wick, this side of the candle is more melted than the other side, so we don't quite have a full melt pool, but there's enough of a melt pool where I feel confident that if I were to blow this candle out, it would light fine the next day and it wouldn't have any issues if I continued to burn the candle. So with 3 hours done, I think it's safe to blow it out. The scent that's filling this room right now is amazing. It's a delicate strawberry shortcake smell. It's not overpowering, but you can definitely smell it. There's just something about vanilla and fruit combined that makes a room feel so cozy and inviting. I absolutely love it. I only cured this candle for a couple of days, so the fact that it's giving me excellent hot throw is fantastic and really speaks to the quality of that cocoa apricot wax and also to the quality of that fragrance oil that I used. But it is now 11 o'clock. I am tired. It's time for my bedtime. I'm going to blow this out and continue this test the next day. Good morning. Kale's over there again. His favorite couch. So it is almost 8 o'clock. I was meaning to get here at 6 o'clock, but slept in. And we're gonna start the power burn again. Last night we burned it for about 3 hours and we achieved a somewhat full melt pool. And the only reason why it wasn't full because my wick wasn't perfectly in the center. Oh, and I'm also not going to trim the wick either. And the reason is because I'm using this candle as though a regular consumer would use it. And that means using the candle improperly. We all know that as much as we would prefer that the customer use our candles the way they're instructed, a lot of people won't. But we want to ensure that our candles are safe, even if it's in the most unideal conditions. So let's keep going. And you can see if I don't trim that wick, the flame gets really high. And that's why we candle makers always suggest to trim the wicks before each new burn. It is now 11:30, so we are coming up on hour 7.5 of burning this candle. The melt pool isn't too intense, and you can see that off-center wick is causing one side of this candle to melt faster than the other, and the scent is filling up not just this room, but I could smell it in the second floor on the stairs. And can we talk about how interesting this candle looks when it's burning? When you use candle dyes to color the candle wax, the effect of it is really, really eye-catching. And depending on what color you dye your candle, you can really create candles that define you and your brand. Color is a great way to create brand identity and to express not only the scent of the candle, but the whole brand in general. And speaking of candle companies that have really strong branding, Whitaker & Bull sent me another package. And this was a surprise. They didn't tell me this was coming, so I'm going to unbox it for you guys. So it looks like we have something wrapped in tissue paper. Wow. So we have a matchbox that has their name, Whitaker & Bull, on it. And on the other side, a little saying, stimulate your space, powder room, salon, coffee table, or parlor. It's basically just matches. They sent another matchbox. This one is pink and silver. It says the same thing on the back. How adorable is this? Pink is so on trend right now. If you put this next to the candle that I'm burning, how cool does this look together? It's like a set. I've been making plain white minimalistic candles for a long time now. Experimenting with dyes has really opened up my horizons in terms of how I can personalize my candles. And companies like Whitaker & Bull really help inspire me to show me how far branding can go. So these were the two matchboxes. And they also sent, looks like they've sent some air fresheners. This is something my car definitely needs. I think these are all the same scent, but the design of the air freshener, they're different for all three. Oh, but the design of each one is so different and unique. Beautiful. Thank you, Whitaker & Bull. If you're curious about Whitaker & Bull, there's a link to their website down below. Check out their products. They are fantastic. They really take branding to another level. So during this power burn, are we just observing what our candle is doing and making mental notes? No, we are writing everything down in a notebook. You can buy one of these candle test templates on Etsy and fill those out, but personally for me, I like to capture my observations in a notebook, just like this one. No frills, super easy to do. So what exactly are you noting down in your notes? For every candle that you intend to sell, you definitely want to make note of the fragrance oil, the wax, and the vessel, and all of the manufacturers that those materials came from. And the reason is because not every material from every supplier is made equal. So if something really works, you want to make sure you want to keep buying from that supplier. You also want to make note about the recipe that you used, because you're not always going to use a 10%, 9% fragrance load when it comes to your wax. Just because a fragrance oil works well with a certain kind of wax, it might not perform the same for a different kind of wax. So always keep track of your ratios. Another thing you want to keep track of is, as you're actually burning the candle, you want to keep track of the time that you are doing it. So start time, end time, and how long you were burning that candle for, and also number the amount of burns that you do. So for example, last night I started the burn at 8 p.m. and I burned it for 3 hours, ending at 11 p.m. This is something that I want to note down because I want to add those 3 hours to the overall burn time amount for this candle. And that first burn is my burn 1. Another thing you will want to make note of is how much of the candle has actually melted. This melt amount is great. Ideally, you don't want the amount of the wax melted to be too much or too little. Too much wax melted, where the melted wax is maybe more than an inch long, could mean that you have overwicked your candle, and that's dangerous because you don't want your glass to get too hot. That could lead to possible exploding of the glass, and also just dangerous for your customer in general. And on the other end of that, if you found that you haven't achieved a full melt pool, that could mean that your wick is too small, and you might have to go up in size when it comes to your wick. We are now at 11 hours of burn time with this candle, and this is how much has burned away. And I would say this is pretty much on track to getting at least 30 hours of burn time. You can see at this point of the burn that the unmelted wax from the side of the candle that had the wick furthest away from it has now melted, and it almost looks even. Still has some unmelted wax over here, but overall having the wick just a little bit close to one side of the candle hasn't affected the performance of this candle too much. Another thing you might want to keep note of too is whether or not there's soot developing on the edge. That is another indicator that you might be using too big of a wick for the candle. And another note on soot, if you burn a candle for long periods of time, you might still see soot develop on the candle even if you have picked a good wick for the candle. Soot can actually develop from not trimming your candle wicks. The bigger your wick is, the more heat is drawn to the wick, which actually builds up heat in the candle and melts the candle faster. Another reason why you should tell your customers to trim their wicks. This extra heat builds up in the candle, and the excess evaporated wax develops as soot on the edge of the container. So burning a candle for a really long period of time, not trimming your wicks, and also choosing too large of a wick can all lead to soot. Yes, even soy candles. I am pleased to report that there is currently no soot. Will that be the same case once the candle burns down to like this much? We'll see. But I will tell you that the longer the candle is burned and the less wax there is in the jar, the more likely it is for soot to be produced, because the heat just builds up and the edge of the candle is further away from the flame, making it a great place for soot to settle. And that is why testing is so important, because just at hour 13 you don't see any soot on the rim does not mean you won't see soot at hour 30. Speaking of flames, what is a good flame for a candle? What should I be looking for? For me and my tests, I look for a steady flame that isn't dancing around too much, that isn't flickering too much. A flame that's flickering can be an indicator that the wick is too large, and when a wick is too large, you might get more soot, and also the candle might be getting too hot and burn much faster than you want it to. So here is a flame of my candle at the 13-hour mark, and I think it's doing okay. It's holding steady, not dancing around too much. But before you write off a candle for flickering around too much, make sure that the candle is not by a drafty window. You shouldn't be putting candles by drafty windows in the first place, because wind can also cause flames to dance around. If during your burn test you notice that your candle is not smelling strongly, there are a few things that you can do. You can try bumping up the percent of the fragrance oil usage a percentage or two. The most I've seen that you can use is 12%. I personally don't go higher than 10, but if you're struggling with the fragrance oil and you really like it and you really want it to work in a candle, you can try that for the next test candle. But even after doing that and you're finding the candle still doesn't smell very strongly, you might have to ditch the dream of using that scent in the candle. Some fragrance oils are just not good in candles, and there are some fragrance oils that are amazing in candles. Another thing you can do is, if you are using soy wax, is to add a little bit of paraffin to the wax to boost that scent. And I know that a lot of candle makers harp on paraffin. I'm not going to go into why you should or shouldn't use paraffin, but if you want a stronger smelling candle, paraffin will probably be your answer. Some of America's best-selling candle brands use paraffin in their candles, and that's probably why they're America's favorite, is because they are some of the strongest smelling candles out there. But if you don't mind testing a lot, then why not find that really great fragrance oil that has really great hot throw in soy wax if that is really important to you. So this candle still has quite a bit of life in it. I'm just going to speed up time here and show you what it looks like at different intervals, and I'll see you at the very end. So, how long did that candle burn for? Find out in the next video. I didn't mean to leave it as such a cliffhanger. I wanted to have that footage ready for you guys by the time this video is released, but the candle is still going strong. Don't worry, I will tell you how long that candle burned for in the next video. But I'm gonna end things here. If you got this far, let me know. If I missed anything, if there are things that you guys test for that I didn't talk about, if you found this video helpful or you liked it, leave me a thumbs up, and if you wanna see more, please subscribe. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to my patrons. I have a Patreon where I have over 80 recipes. They are recipes of how I make my own products. And if you want to have access to that, you can become a patron. There is a link down below. But that is it for today. Until the next video, keep smiling, keep being awesome, and keep making beautiful things. Bye guys.